The massive starship times, celestial harmony times, moved through space like a floating crystal palace. Its walls sparkled with blue and silver light, and everything inside looked perfect. This was the flagship of the Zephyrian Empire, and today, it carried the most important person in the galaxy. But nobody knew that. Lirelei walked through the ship's corridors wearing simple gray clothes. Her real skin was made of living crystal that could shine like diamonds. But now, she looked like any other mid-level worker. She had practiced this disguise for months. Even her own guards thought she was just Lyra, a cultural attaché who studied other species. She wanted to see how her empire really worked when nobody was watching. What she found often made her unhappy. The ship was divided into sections. The Zephyrian areas were beautiful, with crystal walls and floating platforms. The areas for other species were much smaller and darker. The human section was the worst of all. Lirelei was walking through a restricted area when she heard a soft snoring sound. She stopped and listened. The sound was coming from behind a maintenance panel that should have been locked. She pressed her hand against the wall, and her hidden imperial codes opened the panel easily. Inside was a small room filled with tools, wires, and blinking machines. And on the floor, using a dirty jacket as a pillow, a human was sleeping. The human was young, maybe 25 years old. His skin was dark, and his black hair was messy. His work clothes were old and had many patches. His hands were covered with small cuts and burns from working with machines. Even while sleeping, he looked very tired. Lirelei should have called security immediately. Humans were not allowed in restricted areas. This was a serious crime that could mean punishment or even jail time. But something made her stop. She looked around the small room more carefully. The human had built something amazing here. Zephyrian technology was connected to human machines in ways that should not have worked. Crystalline power cores were feeding energy to primitive human computers. Advanced Zephyrian sensors were connected to simple human tools with wire and tape. It was ugly and messy, but it was working perfectly. Lirelei knew Zephyrian technology better than almost anyone. She had studied engineering before becoming Empress. What she saw in this room was impossible. Zephyrian and human technology used completely different principles. They should not work together at all. Yet here they were, working better than they should. The human stirred and opened his eyes. They were brown and very tired. When he saw Lirelei standing there, he jumped up so fast he hit his head on a low pipe. "Oh no," he said, rubbing his head. "Please don't report me." His voice had a strange accent. Lirelei realized he was scared, but he was not begging. He stood straight and looked at her directly. Most humans cowered when they thought they were in trouble. "What is your name?" she asked. "Marcus Chen, ma'am. I'm a maintenance technician. Level 3. "Level 3 is very low," Lirelei said. She knew the human ranking system. Level 3 meant he did basic repairs and cleaning. "Yes, ma'am." "Then why are you in a restricted engineering section?" Marcus looked at the floor. The environmental systems in Section C were failing. The human residential area, where my friends live. The work orders said it would take 6 weeks to get proper repair parts. So people were getting sick from bad air. The temperature control was broken too. It was too hot during ship day and too cold during ship night. Lirelei waited for him to continue. I thought I could fix it faster. I know it's against rules, but people were suffering. How did you get past the security locks?" Marcus looked embarrassed. "I've been working on this ship for 3 years. I watch everything. I learn how things work. The security system has patterns. If you're patient, you can find ways around it." This was interesting. Security protocols were designed by the best Zephyrian minds. They were supposed to be perfect. "Show me what you built here," Lirelei said. Marcus looked surprised. "You're not going to report me?" I want to understand first. Marcus's face changed. He suddenly looked excited instead of scared. He began pointing to different machines and explaining how they worked. See, Zephyrian environmental systems are really good, but they're designed for Zephyrian biology. Humans need different air pressure and different temperatures. The original designers never thought about that. He showed her a box made from spare parts. This takes the Zephyrian environmental data and translates it into something the human systems can understand. Then, this part, he pointed to another device, sends the right commands back to the main system. This should not work, Lirelei said. The protocols are completely different. I know, Marcus said with a smile. That's what makes it fun. He showed her more of his work. He had created dozens of small devices that solved problems nobody else had even noticed. Each one was made from scraps and spare parts. But each one worked perfectly. How did you learn to do this? Lirelei asked. My grandfather was an engineer, before the integration. He taught me that every machine has a personality. You have to listen to it and understand what it needs. The integration. That was what they called it when humanity joined the Zephyrian Empire. Lirelei had been taught it was a great gift they gave to humanity. But Marcus said, before the integration, like he was talking about something that had been lost. The integration gave humans access to advanced technology, Lirelei said carefully. Marcus nodded. But his smile disappeared. Yes, ma'am. We're very grateful. But his eyes said something different. Lirelei looked around the room again. She was seeing something that should not exist. A human with basic training had solved engineering problems that stumped Zephyrian experts. And he had done it with scraps and determination. I should report this, she said. Marcus nodded sadly. I understand, but I will not. Marcus looked up in surprise. I want to see more of your work. Can you show me the environmental systems you fixed? For the first time since she had found him, Marcus smiled a real smile. Yes, ma'am. I'd like that very much. As they left the small room together, Lirelei felt something she had not experienced in years. She felt curious about her own empire, in a way that worried her. She was about to learn things that would change everything. Marcus led Lirelei through corridors she had never seen before. As they walked deeper into the human sections of the ship, everything looked different. The walls were plain metal, instead of beautiful crystal. The lights were dimmer. The air smelled of oil and cleaning chemicals. How many humans work on this ship? Lirelei asked. About 200, Marcus said. We do maintenance, cleaning, food service, basic repairs. Jobs that don't require advanced training. They passed a group of human workers carrying heavy boxes. The workers looked tired and moved slowly. When they saw Lirelei's gray uniform, they stepped aside, respectfully. That uniform means your Zephyrian management level, right? Marcus asked. Yes. Lirelei lied smoothly. Then you can probably help us with something. They reached the environmental control room for the human section. Marcus opened the door and showed her inside. The room was much smaller than the Zephyrian environmental controls, and most of the equipment looked very old. This is what I was trying to fix, Marcus said. He pointed to a wall covered with blinking lights and old screens. The main environmental system was built for a crew of 50 humans. But we have 200 people living here now. Why wasn't the system upgraded? Marcus looked uncomfortable. The work request was filed 18 months ago. Lirelei felt a cold feeling in her stomach. She knew that environmental systems were always top priority in Zephyrian areas. Life support was never delayed. Marcus showed her his solution. He had connected the old human system to the ship's main Zephyrian environmental grid. Somehow, he had made them work together. The Zephyrian system has extra capacity, he explained. It was designed for a much larger crew than we actually have. So I borrowed some of that extra capacity for the human areas. Borrowed? Marcus grinned. The main system doesn't even notice. I made it think the human areas are just extra storage rooms that need basic climate control. This was genius, and it was completely against regulations. Who else knows about this? Lirelei asked. A few other technicians. We help each other out. Over the next several days, Lirelei found excuses to spend time in the human sections. She told her real staff that she was studying human culture for her reports. They thought this was boring work and left her alone. She discovered that Marcus was not unusual. The human workers had created an entire hidden network of improvements and repairs. They shared tools, knowledge, and spare parts. When official repair requests were denied or delayed, they found their own solutions. Sarah Martinez, who worked in the ship's kitchens, had figured out how to make human food using Zephyrian cooking technology. The results were better than anything served in the official dining areas. Tom Bradley, a cleaning technician, had modified the cleaning robots to work much faster. This gave him time to help with other repairs. Maya Patel, who maintained the exercise facilities, had built new exercise equipment from spare parts. It was designed specifically for human biology and worked better than the expensive Zephyrian equipment. Each human had found ways to improve their small part of the ship. Together, they had created something amazing. Why don't you make official reports about these improvements? Lirelei asked Marcus one day. They were in his hidden workshop again. He was teaching her how his translation devices worked. Lirelei was amazed at how simple his explanations were. He made complex engineering concepts easy to understand. Marcus stopped working and looked at her seriously. Have you ever made suggestions to Zephyrian management? Sometimes, Lirelei said carefully. What happened? Lirelei thought about her own experiences. When she made suggestions as Empress, people always agreed with her immediately. But when she had tried to make suggestions using her disguise identity, the response was very different. They usually said thank you, and then nothing changed, she admitted. Right, Marcus said. Humans are considered a junior species. We're good for basic work, but we're not supposed to be innovative. Innovation is for advanced species, like Zephyrians. But your innovations are working. I know. That's the weird part. Marcus showed her a datapad with ship efficiency reports. Look at this. The human sections of the ship are running at 96% efficiency. That's higher than some Zephyrian sections. Lirelei looked at the numbers. He was right. According to official reports, the human areas should have been the least efficient parts of the ship. Instead, they were among the best. How is this possible? She asked. Marcus sat down on an old crate and thought for a moment. I think it's because we have to be creative. When you have unlimited resources and perfect equipment, you don't need to think outside the box. When you have almost nothing, you have to find new ways to make things work. This idea shocked Lirelei. The Zephyrian Empire was built on the belief that advanced technology and unlimited resources were always better. The idea that limitations could create better solutions was completely opposite to everything she had been taught. Can I ask you something? Marcus said. Yes. Why are you really spending so much time down here? I mean, I'm grateful. You're the first management person who has ever listened to us. But it's strange. Lirelei had prepared for this question. I'm writing a report about human integration and efficiency. I need to understand how humans actually work, not just what the official reports say. This was actually true, even though it wasn't the whole truth. Good, Marcus said, because there's something else I want to show you, but it's complicated. He led her to a different room. This one was hidden behind a false wall panel. Inside, several humans were working on what looked like a completely new type of machine. What is this? Lirelei asked. We call it a hybrid processor, said Tom Bradley. It uses Zephyrian computational power, but thinks like a human brain. Lirelei stared at the device. It looked like nothing she had ever seen. Zephyrian crystal technology was woven together with human electronic components in patterns that seemed random but somehow work together perfectly. What does it do? It solves problems, Sarah Martinez said. She was covered with grease and looked very excited. We give it engineering problems that would take the main computer hours to solve. And it finds answers in minutes. But the answers are different, Maya Patel added. Not better or worse. Just different. More creative. Marcus activated the device. Show her the cargo problem, he said to the machine. A holographic display appeared showing the ship's cargo holds. Problem. Optimize cargo placement for maximum efficiency and minimum loading time, Marcus said. The machine thought for 30 seconds. Then it showed a solution that was completely different from standard Zephyrian cargo procedures. Instead of organizing cargo by type and size, it organized by destination and urgency. Instead of filling holds from bottom to top, it created a complex three-dimensional pattern. This solution is 23% more efficient than current procedures, the machine announced. Liralay felt dizzy. This was not just a clever repair or a small improvement. This was a completely new way of thinking about problems. How long have you been working on this? She asked. 6 months, Marcus said. We work on it during our free time. Does anyone else know? The humans looked at each other nervously. No, Tom said. We weren't sure if we should report it. Liralay understood their hesitation. This device challenged basic assumptions about Zephyrian technological superiority. It suggested that human thinking could improve upon Zephyrian methods. That kind of suggestion could be seen as very dangerous. I need to think about this, Liralay said. As she walked back to her official quarters that night, her mind was spinning. Everything she thought she knew about her empire was changing. The humans were not just following orders and doing simple work. They were innovating, creating, and solving problems in ways that Zephyrian minds had never considered. And they were doing it in secret, because they were afraid of what would happen if anyone found out. For the first time in her life, Empress Liralay began to wonder if her empire was making a terrible mistake. The emergency alarm woke everyone on the ship at 3 a.m. Red lights flashed in the corridors, and a computer voice announced, "Navigation system failure. All senior staff report to emergency stations immediately." Liralay jumped out of bed and ran toward the bridge, forgetting that she was supposed to be just a cultural attaché. Her body moved automatically, following years of emergency training. When she reached the main control room, chaos was everywhere. Zephyrian officers were shouting at each other and staring at displays filled with error messages. The ship's navigation computer was completely dead. What happened? Demanded Commander Vaxel. The ship's captain. Unknown, sir, replied the chief engineer. The navigation system just stopped working. All primary and backup systems are offline. How long to repair? Minimum 12 hours, sir. Maybe longer. We'll need to rebuild the entire navigation matrix. Liralay felt her heart racing. They were in deep space, far from any planets. Without navigation, the ship could drift forever. Worse, they were carrying diplomats from 6 different species. If something happened to them, it could start a war. Sir, called out the communications officer. We're receiving distress calls from other ships. It looks like this isn't just us. Every ship using Zephyrian navigation technology has the same problem. The commander's crystalline face turned pale blue with fear. That's impossible. Zephyrian navigation systems don't fail. Sir, we need to contact the Imperial fleet immediately, said the chief engineer. Without thinking, Liralay stepped forward. Commander, use emergency protocol 77 Alpha. Contact the home fleet directly and request immediate assistance. Everyone turned to stare at her. Protocol 7 Alpha was classified at the highest levels. Only members of the Imperial family knew it. Commander Vaxel's eyes went wide. He stared at Liralay for a long moment, then slowly bowed his head. Yes, Your Imperial Majesty. The bridge went completely silent. Every Zephyrian present dropped to one knee. Lirelei realized she had just revealed her identity to everyone. "Continue working," she said quietly. "We'll discuss this later." 20 minutes later, Marcus Chen appeared on the bridge. He was carrying a toolkit and looked like he had been running. "Excuse me," he said to the nearest officer. "I heard about the navigation problem. I think I might be able to help." Humans are not allowed on the bridge during emergencies," the officer said coldly. "Let him speak," Lirelei said. Marcus looked at her strangely. Something had changed about her voice and the way she stood. "The navigation system uses quantum crystalline matrices to calculate jump coordinates," Marcus said. "I've been studying how they work. I think I know what went wrong." The chief engineer laughed. "Human. These systems are beyond your understanding. Please return to your quarters." "Flesh." "Sir," Marcus said patiently. "With respect, I've been fixing Zephyrian technology for 3 years. Sometimes an outside perspective helps." Lirelei nodded. "Show us what you think." Marcus walked to the main navigation console. He looked at the error messages for a few minutes, then opened his toolkit. "The problem isn't in the navigation computer," he said. "It's in the power distribution system. Zephyrian technology is designed to be perfect. Right? No redundancy, no waste, maximum efficiency." "That is correct," said the chief engineer proudly. "But that means when something goes wrong, everything fails at once," Marcus continued. "Human technology is messier, but we always build in backups and workarounds." He pulled out one of his hybrid devices from the toolkit. "This can bridge the gap between your quantum matrix and the backup power systems. It won't be pretty, but it will work." "Absolutely not," said the chief engineer. "We cannot risk contaminating our systems with primitive human technology." "Sir," Marcus said, looking directly at Lirelei, "your people are trapped in space. My solution isn't perfect, but it's better than waiting 12 hours for proper repairs." Lirelei made a decision that would change everything. "Do it." Marcus worked for 2 hours while the Zephyrian engineers watched nervously. His solution looked terrible. Wires and cables ran everywhere. Human electronic components were connected to crystalline Zephyrian systems with tape and improvised connectors. But it worked. "Navigation online," announced the computer. "All systems functional." The bridge erupted in cheers. Commander Vaxel looked at Marcus with new respect. "How did you know how to do that?" Marcus packed up his tools. "My grandfather taught me. He was an engineer. Before the integration. The integration gave humans access to better technology," the commander said. "Your grandfather's methods were outdated." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at Lirelei. "Ma'am, can I speak with you privately?" Marcus. They went to a small conference room near the bridge. As soon as the door closed, Marcus turned to her. "You're not just a cultural attaché, are you?" Lirelei sighed. "No, I'm not. Who are you really?" "I am Empress Lirelei of the Zephyrian Empire." Marcus sat down heavily. "Are you going to tell everyone?" "No," Marcus said immediately. "But I need to show you something. Something about the integration that you might not know." Marcus pulled out a small data device. "My grandfather gave this to me before he died. He made me promise to keep it hidden." "My grandfather..." He activated the device. Holographic images filled the room, showing human technology from before the integration. Lirelei gasped. The human machines she saw were not primitive at all. They were different from Zephyrian technology, but they were incredibly advanced. "This is human space travel from 60 years ago," Marcus explained. "We were developing ships that could travel faster than anything the Zephyrian Empire had." The images showed human spacecraft that looked organic, like living things. They moved through space in ways that defied conventional physics. This is human-computer technology, Marcus continued. We were building machines that could think creatively and adapt to any situation. More images appeared. Human computers that looked like brains made of light. Human cities that grew and changed like forests. Human medicine that could cure diseases by talking to the human body's own repair systems. What happened to all of this? Lirelei asked. The integration, Marcus said sadly. When your empire made contact with humanity, your leaders said our technology was inefficient and dangerous. They offered to give us better Zephyrian technology if we would abandon our old ways. That was a gift, Lirelei said, but her voice sounded uncertain. Was it? Marcus asked. Look at this. He showed her one final image. It was a comparison chart showing human technological development over time. Before the integration, the line went up sharply, showing rapid advancement. After the integration, the line became flat. We stopped innovating, Marcus said. We stopped creating new things. We just learned to use your technology instead. Whoa. We stopped creating new things. Lirelei stared at the data. But Zephyrian technology is superior. In some ways, yes, Marcus agreed. Your technology is more efficient, more reliable, more perfect. But our technology was more adaptable, more creative. We were learning to make machines that could grow and change and solve problems in ways that had never been tried before. Why are you showing me this? Marcus looked directly into her crystalline eyes. Because what happened today proves something important. When your perfect technology failed, it was human creativity that saved everyone. My grandfather's old methods, combined with your advanced systems, created something better than either one alone. Lirelei felt her worldview cracking like broken crystal. Are you saying the integration was wrong? I'm saying maybe there was a better way. Instead of replacing human technology with Zephyrian technology, maybe we could have combined them, created something new together. Marcus showed her more data from his grandfather's archives. Before the integration, humans had been developing in dozens of different directions. Some were working on biological computers. Others were creating machines that used emotion and intuition to solve problems. Still, others were building technology that could repair itself and grow stronger over time. All of this knowledge was archived and forbidden, Marcus said. Humans were told it was dangerous and inefficient. We were taught to think the Zephyrian way was the only right way. But you've been secretly using these old methods, Lirelei realized. Yes, and so have other humans throughout the Empire. We can't help ourselves. It's how our minds work. Lirelei thought about everything she had seen in the past week. The hidden innovations, the creative solutions, the hybrid technologies that worked better than anything her empire had produced. Marcus, she said slowly, what would happen if humans were allowed to innovate freely again? Marcus smiled, but it was a sad smile. I don't know. Maybe we would create wonderful things. Maybe we would make mistakes. But we would be free to try. And what would happen to the Zephyrian Empire? I think, Marcus said carefully, that it would become something better. Something that neither of our species could create alone. For the first time in her long life, Empress Lirelei began to understand that her perfect empire might not be perfect at all, and that the humans she had thought were simple workers might hold the key to a future she had never imagined. But first, she had to decide if she was brave enough to change everything. 3 days after the navigation crisis, Lirelei sat in her real quarters, studying classified Imperial files. She had been reading for hours, searching for any mention of human technological development before the integration. What she found made her sick. The integration had not been the generous gift she had always believed it was. A soft knock on her door interrupted her reading. Enter, she called. Marcus stepped inside, looking nervous. It was the first time he had visited her official quarters. The difference between his small maintenance room and her luxury suite was enormous. "Your Majesty," he said awkwardly, "I hope I'm not disturbing you." "Call me Lirelei when we're alone," she said. "And sit down. I need to show you what I've found." Marcus sat carefully on the edge of an expensive crystal chair. Lirelei activated a secure holographic display and shared her screen with him. "These are classified reports from 60 years ago," she said. "From the time of first contact with humanity." The first document was titled, "Assessment of Human Technological Threat Level." As they read together, both of their faces grew pale. "Human innovation rate. Exponential?" Marcus read aloud. "Projected development time to exceed Zephyrian capabilities. 15 to 20 years. Recommendation. Immediate intervention required." Inwell. Quote, "They were afraid of you," Lirelei said quietly. "My people were afraid that humans would surpass us technologically." The next document was worse. It was a detailed plan for managing human development through technological integration. The plan called for identifying and suppressing human innovations that could threaten Zephyrian superiority. "Look at this section," Lirelei said, pointing to a paragraph. "All human educational institutions must be restructured to teach Zephyrian methods only. Human research into alternative technological approaches must be discouraged and eventually forbidden." Marcus was quiet for a long time. "So, it was never about helping us. It was about stopping us." "It gets worse," Lirelei said. She opened another file. "This is from the Imperial Archives. It's a list of other species that were integrated before humanity." The list was long. Dozens of species that were now considered junior partners in the Empire. Each entry had the same pattern. First, contact, assessment of technological threat, then integration and suppression of native innovation. The Kalari were developing biotechnology that could grow spaceships from living organisms, Lirelei read. The Thexians were creating artificial intelligences that could evolve and improve themselves. The Morathi were building machines that could manipulate space and time. "What happened to all those technologies?" Marcus asked. "Classified as dangerous and forbidden." "All research materials were confiscated and archived." Lirelei's voice was full of disgust. "My empire has been stealing innovation from other species for centuries." Marcus stood up and walked to the window. Outside, stars moved slowly past as the ship traveled through hyperspace. "So, we're all prisoners," he said. "Every non-Zephyrian species in the Empire. We're all prisoners who don't know we're in jail." "There's more," Lirelei said. "Look at this." She showed him a recent report from the Imperial Intelligence Service. The title made Marcus's blood run cold. Assessment of Current Human Innovation Activities. The report contained detailed information about human underground innovation networks throughout the Empire. It mentioned Marcus by name, along with Sarah, Tom, Maya, and dozens of other humans he had never heard of. "They know," Marcus whispered. "They know everything we've been doing. They know everything we've been doing." "Read the recommendations," Lirelei said grimly. The final section of the report was brutal. "Recommend immediate termination of all human innovation networks. Subjects should be relocated to separate facilities for re-education. All unauthorized technological developments should be destroyed." Marcus felt dizzy. When is this supposed to happen? According to this, the order was issued yesterday. Implementation begins in 1 week. They stared at each other in silence. A week was not much time. "I have to warn the others," Marcus said. "Wait." Lirelei grabbed his arm. "If you warn them now, they'll just run, and then they'll be caught and punished as criminals. So what do we do?" Lirelei was quiet for a moment. Then, she did something that surprised them both. She began to laugh. "What's funny?" Marcus asked. "I just realized something. The Imperial Intelligence Service sent this report to me. To you? I'm the Empress. All major security reports come to me for approval. They're waiting for me to sign the order to destroy your innovation networks. Marcus felt hope and fear at the same time. And are you going to sign it? Marcus, Lirelei said seriously, I've been thinking about what you showed me. About human innovation, and Kilari biotechnology, and Thexian artificial intelligence. Do you know what all these suppressed technologies have in common? Marcus shook his head. They're all based on growth and adaptation. They're all technologies that can change and improve themselves over time. They're the opposite of Zephyrian technology. What do you mean? Lirelei walked to her own window and looked out at the stars. Zephyrian technology is perfect, but it's also static. It doesn't grow or change. It just is. We've been so focused on creating perfect solutions that we've forgotten how to adapt when the universe changes around us. She turned back to face Marcus. What happened during the navigation crisis? Our perfect technology failed because it couldn't adapt to an unexpected situation. But your imperfect, messy human solution worked because it could change and grow. So you're saying Zephyrian technology has reached its limits? I'm saying that maybe perfection isn't the goal. Maybe growth is. Marcus began to understand what she was thinking. The other species, their suppressed technologies, if they were allowed to develop freely, we could create an empire based on growth instead of control. Innovation instead of perfection. Cooperation instead of domination. But that would mean changing everything. The entire structure of the empire. Lirelei nodded. It would mean revolution. They were interrupted by an urgent chime from Lirelei's communication system. Your Majesty, came the voice of her personal secretary. High Counselor Zevrak is requesting an immediate private meeting. Lirelei and Marcus looked at each other with alarm. High Counselor Zevrak was the head of Imperial Intelligence. He was also one of the most powerful people in the Empire. Tell him I'll see him in 10 minutes, Lirelei replied. As soon as the communication ended, Marcus stood up. I should go. No, wait. Lirelei opened a hidden panel in the wall. There's a secret passage here. It connects to the maintenance corridors. You can listen to what he says. Marcus squeezed through the narrow passage just as High Counselor Zevrak entered the room. From his hiding place, Marcus could see and hear everything. Zevrak was an old Zephyrian with dark blue crystalline skin and cold silver eyes. He bowed formally to Lirelei, but his manner was not respectful. It was threatening. Your Majesty, he said, I need to discuss the human innovation problem with you. What about it? The situation is more serious than we initially thought. Our agents have discovered that the human underground networks are connected to similar groups from other species. The Kilari, the Thexians, the Morathi. They're sharing forbidden knowledge. Lirelei kept her face calm, but Marcus could see her hands clenching. Yes, and worse, they're beginning to develop hybrid technologies that combine multiple species approaches. This could threaten the stability of the entire empire. What do you recommend? Zevrak smiled coldly. More than just re-education, I'm afraid. We need to make an example. Public trials for the ringleaders. Harsh punishments. Fear is the only way to stop this kind of thinking from spreading. I see. There's something else, Your Majesty. We have reason to believe that someone in the imperial government has been helping these innovation networks, providing them with access to classified information and protected areas. Marcus felt his heart stop. They knew about Lirelei's involvement. Do you have proof of this accusation? Lirelei asked carefully. Not yet. But we're investigating. When we find this traitor, they will face the harshest possible punishment, even if they are highly placed. The threat was clear. Zevrak suspected Lirelei, and he was warning her that not even an Empress was safe if she opposed the Empire's policies. I understand, Lirelei said. I'll review your recommendations and give you my decision tomorrow. After Zevrak left, Marcus emerged from the hidden passage. Both of them were shaking. He knows, Marcus said. Not yet, but he will soon. What do we do now? Lirelei looked at the intelligence report still displayed on her screen. The order to destroy the innovation networks. The list of names of people who would be arrested and punished. Now, she said, we decide whether we're going to save the Empire by destroying it, or destroy it by trying to save it. Marcus knew that whatever decision they made in the next 24 hours would change the fate of billions of people across the galaxy. The question was, did they have the courage to choose revolution over safety? Lirelei did not sleep that night. She sat in her quarters, staring at two documents on her desk. One was the order to destroy the human innovation networks. All she had to do was sign it. And everything would go back to the way it had always been. The other document was something she had written herself. A proposal for a complete restructuring of the Zephyrian Empire. Instead of suppressing innovation, it would encourage it. Instead of controlling other species, it would partner with them. It was the most dangerous document in the galaxy. At dawn, Marcus knocked on her door. He looked as tired as she felt. Have you decided? He asked. Yes, Lirelei said. But first, I need you to do something for me. She handed him a secure communication device. Contact every human in your network. Tell them to gather as much of their forbidden technology as they can. Tell them to prepare for either the greatest opportunity in human history or the end of everything they've worked for. What are you planning? I'm going to call an emergency session of the Imperial Council. All the most important leaders in the Empire will be there, and I'm going to tell them the truth. Marcus stared at her. That's suicide. They'll remove you from power. They might even execute you for treason. Probably, Lirelei agreed. That's why I need you to be ready with an alternative plan. She explained her idea. If the Imperial Council rejected her proposal, Marcus and his network would have to leave Zephyrian space immediately. They would take their forbidden technologies and find somewhere safe to continue their work. But, without the Empire's resources, we'll never be able to develop these technologies fully. Marcus said. Maybe not. But at least you'll be free to try. And what about you? Lirelei smiled sadly. I'll face whatever punishment they decide. But at least I'll know. I tried to do the right thing. 2. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, There's a third option. What? What if your proposal succeeds? What if the Imperial Council actually agrees to change everything? Lirelei had been so focused on preparing for failure that she had barely dared to hope for success. Then, we'll build something amazing together. The emergency session of the Imperial Council was held in the ship's largest conference room. 27 of the most powerful Zephyrians in the galaxy attended by holographic projection. High Counselor Zevrak was there in person, sitting directly across from Lirelei with cold, suspicious eyes. Fellow counselors, Lirelei began, I have called this emergency session to discuss the future of our empire. Your Majesty, interrupted Counselor Thale, we understand you wish to discuss the human innovation problem. High Counselor Zevrak has prepared a comprehensive solution. Yes, said Zevrak, standing up. The situation requires immediate action. I recommend we implement the termination protocols immediately. Sit down, Lirelei said quietly. Her voice was calm, but there was something in it that made Zevrak obey without thinking. I did not call this meeting to discuss terminating human innovation, Lirelei continued. I called it to discuss why we have been so afraid of innovation, that we have spent centuries destroying it. The room went completely silent. Lirelei activated the holographic display and showed them everything she had learned. The suppression of human technology, the destruction of Kelari, Thexion, and Morathi innovations. The deliberate prevention of technological advancement by non-Zephyrian species. For 300 years, she said, we have told ourselves that we were bringing civilization to primitive species. The truth is that we have been destroying civilizations that might have surpassed our own. Your Majesty, said Councillor Vex, these species were integrated for their own benefit. Their technologies were inefficient and dangerous. Were they? Lirelei asked. She showed them Marcus's hybrid devices, the improved environmental systems, the navigation solution that had saved everyone during the crisis. This human technician solved problems that our best engineers could not solve. He did it using the supposedly primitive methods we have banned. High Counselor Zevrak stood up again. Your Majesty, with respect, you have been influenced by subversive elements. This human has clearly manipulated you. Bring him in, Lirelei said. The conference room doors opened, and Marcus entered. He was carrying a large case and looked terrified, but determined. Behind him came Sarah, Tom, Maya, and 6 other humans, each carrying their own equipment. The Zephyrian counselors gasped. Humans were not allowed in Imperial Council meetings. What is the meaning of this? Demanded Zevrak. I want you to see what we have been destroying, Lirelei said. Marcus and his team began setting up their hybrid technologies. Within minutes, they had assembled a demonstration of human Zephyrian cooperative engineering that made every piece of equipment in the room look primitive by comparison. Show them the processing power, Lirelei said. Marcus activated their hybrid computer system. Give us any problem, he said to the council. Any engineering challenge. Any mathematical calculation. Anything, Councillor Thale sneered. Calculate the optimal trade routes for all Imperial commerce over the next 50 years. The Zephyrian main computer system would need 6 hours to solve that problem. Marcus's hybrid system solved it in 12 minutes. But more importantly, it found solutions that the main computer had never considered. Your optimal routes assume that trade patterns will remain static, the hybrid computer announced. However, if trade routes are allowed to adapt dynamically, based on political and economic changes, efficiency increases by 47%. The councillors stared at the results in shock. How is this possible? Whispered Councillor Vex. Because, said Sarah Martinez, stepping forward, human minds don't think the same way Zephyrian minds do. We don't look for perfect solutions. We look for adaptable solutions. And, added Tom Bradley, when you combine Zephyrian precision with human creativity, you get something better than either species could create alone. High Counselor Zevrak slammed his hand on the table. This is exactly what I warned against. These hybrids threaten the purity of Zephyrian technology. The purity of our technology, Lirelei said, has made us stagnant. We have not had a major technological breakthrough in over a century, because we have been so focused on maintaining perfection that we stopped trying to improve. She looked around the room at the faces of the most powerful people in the Empire. I am proposing that we abandon the policy of technological suppression. Instead of integrating other species into our methods, we should learn from their methods. Instead of one empire controlled by one species, we should create a confederation of equals, each contributing their unique approaches to solving the challenges we face together. The room erupted in shouting. Half the councillors supported the idea. Half thought it was treason. High Counselor Zevrak was screaming about racial purity and imperial tradition. Enough. Lirelei's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. I am still your Empress. We will vote on this proposal. All in favor? 14 councillors raised their hands. All opposed. 13 councillors raised their hands. The proposal had passed by a single vote. High Counselor Zevrak stood up slowly. Your Majesty, he said, this decision will destroy everything our ancestors built. I cannot and will not support it. Then you are free to resign from the council, Lirelei replied. Zevrek looked around the room, clearly hoping others would join him in defying the Empress. When no one moved, he gathered his things and left. "What happens now?" asked Counselor Thale. "Now," Lirelei said, "we begin the hardest work our empire has ever attempted. We contact every suppressed species and offer them a choice. They can continue as junior partners in a Zephyrian empire, or they can join us as equals in building something completely new." Over the following months, the transformation was difficult and sometimes chaotic. Many Zephyrians opposed the changes and left Imperial space. Some species were suspicious of the new policies and chose to remain separate, but others embraced the opportunity. The Kilari began growing new types of biological spacecraft that could heal themselves and adapt to any environment. The Thexians developed artificial intelligences that could create art and music, as well as solve mathematical problems. The Morathi shared technologies for manipulating space and time that revolutionized transportation and communication. And the humans, led by Marcus and his team, became the bridges between all these different approaches. Their talent for improvisation and adaptation made them perfect translators between different technological philosophies. A year later, Lirelei stood on the bridge of a new kind of ship. It was part Zephyrian crystal, part Kilari organic growth, part Thexian artificial intelligence, and part human intuitive engineering. It was not perfect. It was not pure, but it was alive and growing and capable of things none of their species had imagined alone. Marcus joined her at the observation window. He was no longer a maintenance technician. He was now the director of cooperative innovation, one of the highest positions in the new Confederation government. "Any regrets?" he asked. Lirelei looked out at the stars. In the distance, she could see ships from a dozen different species, working together to build the first truly cooperative space station in galactic history. "Ask me again in 100 years," she said, "when we see what we've built together." Marcus smiled. "I think," he said, "that what we're building will be too amazing for any of us to imagine right now." He was right. The Galactic Cooperative Confederation would go on to achieve things that no single species could have accomplished alone. They would solve the mysteries of dark matter, develop technologies for traveling between dimensions, and eventually make contact with civilizations in other galaxies. But all of that began with a simple moment. An alien Empress, finding a human technician, sleeping in a restricted area, and choosing to listen instead of punish. Sometimes the smallest choices change everything.